It's time!
Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet.
Hello, and welcome to the TWSN Patreon page. Here we will provide you with the sports betting tips, picks, and information in order for you to become a successful gambler. We have 5 packages that I think really do an incredible job of providing the information tailored to you, what you want, and what your sports betting needs are. For more information, reach out to the TWSN team, but we have a ton of stuff coming your way. Content from fantasy football, sports betting for UFC, NBA, NHL, and of course the NFL. We are so excited to be able to bring this service to you, and let us know if there's any more information you need.
Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now because it's the place that it all goes down on.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Strikes and Submissions, No Decisions. Here with Michael Daly, my co-host. I'm Dorian Wright. Glad you guys joined us today. Mike, how we feeling today?
I am pumped. I have been waiting for the week of October 30th, probably since early September, because that was around the announcement of 267. I have been waiting for this time, and it's finally here. I can't wait.
For sure. We'll dive into 267 a bit later, but let's start off with some boxing. We ended last week's show. Herring-Stevenson, Jamel Herring for the strat. Mike, I'll let you take the floor since you were wrong. Go ahead.
Well, the only thing that's perfect on earth is God. From time to time, I make some mistakes, and that's all right. I'm not upset that I won against Herring-Stevenson because heading into that fight, Jamel Herring showed me all I needed to see from him in terms of being a veteran who knew how to take control of the ring against someone who is a rising prospect, but the jury was still out in terms of could they be a pound-for-pound champ right now. It just went to show that I was wrong, and a lot of people who criticize Herring-Stevenson were wrong. Timothy Bradley being one of them as well. Stevenson, from the opening bell, took over. He showed that he was the better fighter, which I think everyone knew heading into the fight. But Shakur, the reason why it was such a dominating victory is that he was able to package everything together and bring it there from the first round until the 10th round when the fight was stopped. That's how good he looked. And I'm going to be honest with you, Dorian. In the first round, I thought the commentary was being a little biased against Jamel Herring. And usually it's the other way around. Usually they're biased against Stevenson. But this time in the first round, they went really hard on Herring. And I felt that way up until the in-between period of the first round and the second round, where the trainer's talking to the fighters and it's being shown on the broadcast. There was something in Brian McIntyre, the head trainer of Jamel Herring, something in his voice that raised a lot of alarms for me. And he essentially told Jamel Herring, look, you are going to have to put everything on your punches because you are going to be in for a long night. When I heard that, all hope was lost in my eyes. As a spectator, I thought Jamel Herring was going to be in for a long night, and he was. But you know what? I'm going to give Herring some credit here. He easily could have given up, and he didn't. He hung in there. Yes, he was outclassed and outboxed, but he hung in there, and it was Herring-Stevenson's night. Herring-Stevenson, he's on a path to prove that he might be the very best 130-pound fighter on the planet.
For sure. So I just want to start this thing by saying one thing. If you know, you know. It's Big Jersey.
Oh, boy.
Herring-Stevenson, baby. Big Jersey. Come on, Mike. You should have known when I'll give you one thing. I do think Herring could have quit a lot sooner. Not saying he quit. Obviously, the ref stopped it. But I do think Herring was kind of like fading. And I was like, ooh, he looks like he's about to go down. Didn't go down, went out on his shield. Good fight, but come on. From the opening bell, you could see, like I said last week, Shakur's faster, and he's just sharper at this point in his career. One's on the up and coming, one's on the decline, and they matched up in the middle. Shakur got it done. Ain't nothing much else to say. It's Big Jersey. We knew he was going to get the job done. He bringing back a belt to the 732. Shouts out Newark. Man, come on, Mike. You know what it is.
You know what? I should have known. I should have known better because I've been a staunch supporter of Shakur Stevenson since his Olympic trials. I've been a big fan of him. I just wasn't impressed with how he performed in June. That to me scared me a bit in terms of picking him, but I won't pick against him. It's got to be someone. It's got to be Gervonta Davis or someone like that he's fighting for me to pick against Shakur Stevenson now. So I learned my lesson, but Shakur put on a heck of a performance.
Yeah, and that was the last thing I was going to say. I think he's starting to inch himself closer to that class of, Gervonta Tank Davis, Devin Haney, Terrence Crawford-ish. Mm-hmm. It's like you have to now mention Shakur when you're talking about the best in the world. Obviously, there's Canelo, there's Fury, but when we're talking about the smaller guys, you got to throw his name in there.
Yeah, he's a pound-for-pound fighter at this point.
Yeah, easily. And I think his performance more so showed me that he wasn't going to be affected by the pressure, the outside noise. Guys like you saying, oh, your last fight, super boring. I'm not going to buy the ticket this fight. He's like, okay, I'm going to make you a believer. So I'm going to go out. I'm going to stop him in Atlanta. And I'm going to go party with Quavo after. What more you need to see? You tuning into his next fight, you're gonna buy it just like you bought this one, because now he has that cachet now. He'll be able to talk a little crazier and people won't be like, oh my God, he's so brash. He'll be able to talk and people will be like, okay, no, he earned that. He deserved that. Once you get a certain level of staying in the game, I guess you can say, you can start talking a little crazy. I think you're gonna start to see Shakur get a little reckless with the tongue coming up soon, because he got some names he can fight. He has a lot of people he hasn't fought. Obviously, he has now a new belt to defend, so we'll see what he does going forward. I don't know if this was Herring's last fight, but it didn't look like he wanted to box too much after. I don't know about you, but good fight overall. I thought it was a fun night. It was really, really late coming off the UFC card, trying to transition it very late, but good fights. Next up, we have Bellator 269, which was Fedor Emelianenko's Russian return against Tim Johnson in the heavyweight division. Again, I'll say it again, like I said last week, I don't know why he came out to pick on, Tim Johnson, but he did knock him out. He got the job done fairly easily. What were your overall thoughts on the fight, and what's next for Fedor here?
Tim Johnson lost that fight the moment he signed the contract. That's the way I saw it, because everything was going against him to lose this fight, and that's what happened. It's very unfortunate for Tim Johnson. I don't know where he goes. For Fedor, I think Fedor is probably going to end up having at least one more fight and then calling it a career, because now he's 44 years old. You just knocked out someone who 4 months prior was fighting for the interim heavyweight title. So you didn't knock out a complete scrub or somebody who is a nobody. You knocked out someone with a certain level of respect in Bellator's heavyweight division. So props to Fedor for that. I think there has to be one more fight out there for him. Right now, I don't know who it would be, because Bellator has a revolving door of guys they could just toss in there. It might as well be in Russia again if you're Fedor, because you're the cash cow. You might as well just have everything playing in your favor once again. There is one thing I want to bring up. I heard Daniel Cormier this week say that Fedor Emelianenko is the greatest heavyweight of all time.
I knew you were going to bring this up. I was going to avoid it. I was trying to slide. I knew you were going to bring this up.
I had to, because it's part of the storyline. I love and respect Daniel Cormier as a fighter and as a commentator, but he's off. Because you know why he's off? Daniel Cormier is a better heavyweight all time than he is.
Yeah.
If you put Daniel Cormier in his peak as a heavyweight, which I guess you could say 2018, and you take Fedor in his peak, which would be 2005, not a single round will Fedor beat Daniel Cormier. And I don't even have Daniel Cormier as the greatest heavyweight of all time. I have Stipe. But still, Daniel and Stipe are at least ahead of him. You could make the argument Randy Couture might be ahead of Fedor as well. I'm sorry. I can't sit here honestly and say Fedor Emelianenko, who has never fought in the UFC, in the UFC's heavyweight division, even though he had chances to, say he's better than those guys. It's hard.
Yeah, and I think the big thing with this story is it's not that he was just overseas dominating and undefeated and wouldn't come to the UFC. He was taking losses, and then here and there, the UFC would offer him a contract. I think Dana said he offered him like a 3-fight, $40 million deal, and he turned it down. So that just lets you know the type of money Fedor is getting overseas to turn something like that down. But overall, it's not even a debate. You can't, and I tried to tell you this when you said that Nemkov was the best 205er. You can't be the best in the world if you're not in the best promotion in the world. That's like me saying I'm a better basketball player than someone in the NBA. If I'm not in the NBA, I can't.
Hold on now. Nemkov's a little different because Nemkov, yes, he has losses on his record prior to Bellator, but Nemkov is in the same breath as someone like Jan Blachowicz or Yuri Prohaska. Fedor, though, has been out of his prime for a long, long time. That's the difference. We're talking about somebody who hasn't been in his prime. And Daniel was saying how the UFC was looking at Fedor in 2011 and 2013. He was out of his prime then. At least Vadim Nemkov now is in his prime.
Fair. But my point is, if you want to be the best, you either got to beat the best.
Sure.
Or be where you can be named the best. You're not going to be named. You might be the best heavyweight to fight in Pride, the best heavyweight, the best fighter to never fight in the UFC. But you have to preface that statement with, hey, aside from anyone else who fought in the UFC, Fedor's probably the best. And I'm not saying Fedor couldn't beat certain guys. Like, I'm not giving Randy Couture over Fedor. I think Fedor would beat him prime for prime, but you have an argument, and that's the point. You shouldn't be able to argue when it's, I'm the GOAT of this division. There's no arguments. There's no arguments for the 205 GOAT. There's no arguments for the 85 GOAT. Even the 170 GOAT, like Usman's coming along, but everyone knows it's GSP. Like, there's no debates. There's no, but what about, so-and-so in Bellator didn't fight in the UFC? Like, no one does that. So we're not going to do that with Fedor. That's why I wanted to skip it, because I didn't want to seem like I'm bashing Fedor.
I had to bring it up, though.
Last week, I felt like I was bashing Fedor. I watched the show back. I didn't really like how I was talking about him because he is a legend in the sport. I do want to give credit where it's due. I didn't want to poop his return.
He's top 5. I have him top 5 heavyweight of all time, but not number 1.
I'm going off the top right now. I'm Stipe, DC, Kane.
JDS is up there.
Fedor, JDS. Okay, yeah, he's top 5, sure. I'm rolling. He can be top 5, but best in the world, no. And I think DC was probably just saying that, giving the guy some flowers. He comes back, and DC's retired, so DC's legacy is set in stone. He's a Hall of Famer. Like, he don't need these arguments. But come on, DC. Actually, now I'm thinking about it. If DC's above him, I don't have him in the top 5. But anywho, it's cool. I'm glad he came back. And again, I don't know what he's going to do. We talked about it last week. If his guy, Modeski, wins the championship, I don't think he's going to fight him.
No.
I guess he wants the Ryan Bader fight. So he's hoping Ryan Bader beats his training partner. I don't get it. But overall, it was a really quick fight, really quick card. And it was good to have in the middle of the day. For me, at least, because I'm sitting at home not doing much. But other than that, it was a weird card to have. I don't know. I just didn't see the point of him returning after being retired all these years, out of his prime, just picking on someone who's not the hottest guy in. But what are you going to do? Fedor's, like you said, he's the cash cow. So if I'm fighting again, they're going to do it in Russia. They're going to give him whatever he wants, and they're going to give him whoever he wants, more importantly. So shouts out Fedor, got another knockout on his belt. Heavy hands. But let's move on to the big dog promotion. UFC Vegas 41 fight night. Mike, talk to me now. You had Sandhagen and TJ. I don't know. I think you might have switched to Ortega and Volk. Is this the fight of the year, Paulo Costa, Marvin Vettori?
All right, let me rank them. All three of those are in my top three, but not in that order. So I'm going to go from 3 to 1. 3, I have Volkanovski, Ortega. 2, I have Costa-Vettori. And 1, I still got to give it to Sandhagen Dillashaw. And I think you probably expected me to choose that one number 1 because I have just been so high on that one. And the reason why I can't say Vettori Costa is number 1 because we pretty much knew the winner was solidified more or less in Vettori. Vettori did what he had to do, but that fight, when it comes to entertainment value, might be the most entertaining fight of the year. I mean, from the amount of significant strikes that were thrown and landed, the amount of thudding shots that were just being casted left and right, it was 25 minutes of nonstop action. That's what you want, and that's a fight that's usually a contender for fight of the year. And you know what, Dorian? I'm going to be honest with you. If that ends up being the fight of the year, I'm not mad at it. Not at all. I am just saying it helps having a fight of the year that goes the distance and is razor thin in the decision. This, to me, wasn't razor thin, but a very entertaining fight nonetheless.
That's fair. I think to bring it back full circle now that we're past the fight week debacle, weight class debacle, all that nonsense Costa had put us through, Costa showed up and showed his ass off. I'm going to be real. He showed up and that was the most entertaining Costa fight ever for me. And before that, it was the Yoel fight because it was 3 rounds of the same. But this time it's just 5 rounds. And for me, you talking about thudding shots. I don't know how Marvin Vettori's arm isn't broken or his ribs aren't broken. Costa was blasting kicks at this man. Heavy kick. And sometimes I watch it with the commentary on or off, depending on who's commentating. I had the commentary on. I had the sound on. So when I heard that first, I was like, ooh, let me turn this down. I had to turn down my volume twice during that fight because that's how hard those kicks were landing. And not for nothing, those kicks weren't Costa's best shots he was landing. He was landing left square to Vettori's jaw. That head kick cracked Vettori right on the side of his head. And like Izzy says, Vettori's best defense is his blockhead. That's what Israel Adesanya said. And he was right because that kick knocks out 99% of grown men on the planet. And Vettori just sat there and walked through it and kept boxing him, kept beating him up. But man, I get what you're saying with the razor thin decision. But from pure entertainment, TJ and Corey, it was an entertaining fight, don't get me wrong. But I think it was more a fight of the year because of the buildup, the hype. Hey, TJ's coming back. Hey, Corey's on a crazy streak. He wheel kicked Marlon and flying knee Frankie, who also from Jersey. Shouts out Frankie Edgar. But and it was just like a buildup. Oh my God, Corey doesn't have to take this fight. He should sit out. Oh my God, Corey's the man. He's taking this fight anyway. And like the fight happened, it was real close. But this fight, the buildup was crazier to me. And it only took a week because, hey, I'm not making 85. Let's make 95. Hey, I'm not making 95. Let's make 205. Hey, give me 20% of your, hey, is this fight on? Hey, what's going on? Vettori flips him off at the face-offs and weigh-in. Oh my God, this is a fight. And then they both deliver. I want to give props to both guys. That's really all I have to say. That was an amazing fight. And not for nothing, I thought it was a little closer than the judges had it. When I first was watching, I'm like, no way he won 4-1. But then I remembered Costa got a point taken away for the eye poke, which I didn't like that at all. But because I don't know. I didn't like the point taken away. I get he warned him right before that, but he didn't poke him. You can't, I don't know. I can't tell Jason Herzog what to do, but he took the point and it didn't affect the fight in the end. in the long run. But if it would have, that would be even more controversy added onto this fight, even more fuel to the fire, if you will, to make it fight of the year. Because so far, it's fight of the year for me.
I understand that. I think part of the reason why it's also so entertaining is because they're bigger guys. Whereas if you're looking at the bantamweight division, not saying those fights aren't entertaining, because look at Dillashaw-Sanhagen. As entertaining as it gets, it's just different when you're dealing with guys who are 185 pounds or 205 and they're throwing bombs at each other. It's just a little different to the viewing eye. And I get where you're coming from. For me, it's not, but maybe if I wasn't so beholden to that fight and kind of having revisionist history, I don't know. But if it's not one, then it's two. I would put it right now 2 on fight of the year, because like we talked about a while ago, fight of the year usually is a 5-round event. That's usually what it is, because that's the largest sample size you can get. And that's really where you see what a fighter is made of. Because when the going gets tough in those wars, or just in a very close fight, you want to see a fighter or 2 fighters give it their all. So I was very pleased with how Costa-Vettori ended up. And honestly, it shocked me, because the way fight week went, I thought that fight was going to be a disaster. I thought it was going to be a boring fight, but it went the other way. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, and not for nothing, we both kind of said, oh man, like this is what Nick Diaz did. Vettori's going to finish him. But Costa was durable. And that's something, his durability and his cardio are 2 things that were in question. And I think he showed up and showed out, like I said. Not for nothing, man. He took some shots because Vettori was putting it on him. Like, Vettori wasn't just peppering him with light, pillow-handed shots. Vettori was hitting him hard, walking him down. 5 rounds straight of walking him down. You don't see Costa get walked down like that. Even Izzy didn't walk him down. Izzy stood in the center and traded with him. Well, Costa didn't really throw. It's not a trade, but Izzy stood in the center with him. Vettori pushed Costa to the fence. That's not something I thought I would see. You know, if I had $1 to bet on it, I would say, oh no, he's going to lead the dance. But no, Vettori led the dance and won the fight, rightfully so. And real quick, I want to touch on earlier in the card, Mason Jones and David Onama. That was my fight of the year. Like after I saw that, I was like, oh my God, this is fight of the year. I'm going to talk about this on the show. And then I'm like, oh, it's not 5 rounds. Mike's going to dismiss it. And then later on, we got that fight. And I was like, oh my God. And then I looked at the awards. They didn't get a bonus for fight of the night. I was like, yo. Oof. And then I looked and I was just at the card and I'm like, okay, Caceres, Choi. Okay. Obviously, Vettori, Costa. Okay. And then Gregory Rodriguez and Jun Young Park. That was ridiculous. That's the one that actually won fight of the night because it was so back and forth. But Mason Jones and David Onama, man, that was – you want to talk about action? That was 15 minutes of pure violence. And David Onama's newcomer to the UFC, undefeated. He's a featherweight. His coach said, hey, Mason Jones, you want to be in the UFC or not? You got to make 55. So he's moving up a weight class against Mason Jones, who basically, I think has one or two losses, one and a no contest, almost an undefeated fighter, pretty flawless fighter, stepping in on 5-6 days notice, moving up a weight class against such a highly touted prospect, and took him 15 minutes, close, a hard-fought fight. And I was like, wow, this is the best fight I've seen all year. And then Vettori Costa happened, and I was like, I don't know about that. It was just a crazy night. That's all I'm saying. A lot of good fights. This fight night definitely made up for the last couple of weeks, in my opinion. But you know how it goes. We're going to watch it regardless of if it's a good fight or not, because that's our jobs, Mike. We got to give the people what they need.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say with Mason Jones, everyone talks about Paddy Pimblett being like the next big thing. Maybe it's because Mason Jones lost last January, and that's why people aren't really touting him that highly. But to me, I think he's a better prospect than Paddy Pimblett. I don't mean to start a whole different conversation here, but Mason Jones, to me, is extremely impressive. And I was happy with how he performed against Onama. I thought that was a great fight. Again, if it wasn't for the way Fight of the Year is usually structured, that would be a contender. But I don't usually think they're given to 3-round fights, but that would be one of them.
Yeah, they wouldn't give it to a 3-round fight, especially with two guys, not unknown, but fairly no-namers.
They haven't paid their dues yet.
Yeah, so they're not going to get the cachet in a Fight of the Year conversation, but that's why we here. We got to bring it to the people because that was a great fight. That was, if I'm being real, that was the most entertaining fight of the night until we got 25 minutes more of just big, buff dudes who didn't have to cut weight, throw everything they have in every single shot. It's great. And not for nothing, we can move on after this because we probably, beat this topic into the ground. Costa moving up to 205, I was a little worried. I'm like, he's a little small. His arms are a little short for even middleweight, moving up to 205 with dudes who are going to be bigger than him. I didn't know. Costa showed me he can hang because Vettori, a big Vettori throwing bombs at you, that's about as powerful as it's going to get unless you're going up against Jan. Other than that, there's not going to be more power you're going to face in the light. Maybe Reyes, but he's on like a decline as well. So I don't even think Costa would be in his realm of fighting. But I want to see Costa at 205.
I don't know. Costa actually might be in Dom Reyes' realm because Costa would be coming there on a 2-fight losing streak.
Yeah.
So he actually might be. And I think he would beat Reyes. That's all I'll say on that. But yeah, I think he would actually beat Reyes.
Yeah. Actually, now I'm thinking about it. Reyes lost 3 because Jan, and then Yuri.
Yeah. And you know what? You can criticize Dom Reyes all you want, and you can.
That's murderer's row, though.
Yeah, come on. Like, that's like Corey Anderson, how he lost to Jan and then was out of the UFC. You can't fault a guy for losing to that type of company.
Yeah, nah, for real. But yeah, I think Costa at 205. Now I'm bought in. Before I was like, oh, he's just a ballooned up 85er. He can't fight at 205. Make another weight class between 85 and 205. I'm such an MMA guy. I don't know. I see these little discussions. I see a 65 weight class between the 15 pounds from 55 and 70, and then a 95 weight class. And I'm like, yeah, make more weight classes so more people can join the UFC. But we don't need to water down the talent. If you can't make weight, move up. Mm-hmm. And I think Dana said Costa will be moving up, and Costa said, I'm not moving up if I can make 85. So we're going to see how this unfolds, but Jesus, that was one of the greatest fights I've ever seen, and easily Fight of the Year contender. Whether you have it 1 or 2 or 3, whatever, it's top 3. There's not 3 better fights.
Oh yeah.
3-round, 5-round, whatever that happened this year. Last night we had some good fights. The PFL had their championship finale, giving away $1 million to each weight class winner. So obviously Kayla Harrison's top of the bill. You got Ray Cooper with a crazy knockout, which I didn't see. Shouts out Ray Cooper. And this is the professionalism I was speaking of. He missed weight. He cut his hair. He was growing his hair for 3 years. He cut his hair to make weight, and he won. He's a millionaire now. People who don't make weight, take notes. That's all I got to say. But moving on, we can go to the big names. Claressa Shields took an L, Mike. I was hurt. I was like, no, please get up. And then she got up, and then she got taken down the next round. And I actually thought they were going to score the fight for her when they were reading it off. I'm like, what is taking so long? And anytime it takes that long, I know split decision's coming. That's just how okay, split decision. They read the first cards off for Shields. I was like, the second one for Monty, and then the third one was like, okay, I would go. I was like, oh my God. Like, even though I was rooting for Claressa to win, there was no way she won that fight. And she would have got robbed if they would have gave it to her on the cards. But yeah, did you have any thoughts on the Claressa Shields fight?
Quickly, I'll just say Claressa Shields, I have to give her credit because she has 2 things going against her. One, she's 26 years old, primarily a boxer, and she's making a transition into MMA. She's making a transition later in life compared to what most mixed martial artists do. It hasn't been unheard of, particularly in the women's division, the women's side of MMA. You've seen Holly Holm make a transition. Even Lauren Murphy was a mother by the time she jumped in. So we have seen women kind of later in their 20s make a jump, but not too often. So I say all that to say she has that going against her late transition, and she has the fact that the PFL are trying to prove that they are the number 2 MMA promotion in the world. And the reason why I say that's against her is because the PFL will not give her any easy matchups. In terms of favorable matchups, they're going to challenge her and make her earn victories, like she had to earn her first go-around back in June, and like she almost did yesterday, because that was a very close fight. I did not think she won it, but it was a close fight. So, look, I take my hat off to her if I was wearing a hat, because she did her very best. As a boxing fan, though, I want to see her back in the boxing ring. As much as it's great to have her on the MMA side, and she's getting paid a lot more from what she has said, she needs to be in the boxing ring because she's the greatest female boxer of all time. And the sport of boxing is better when Claressa Shields is competing. So I'm not saying for her to quit MMA, but I think now she has to transition to boxing.
I'm not sure. She may have a fight booked in December, a boxing match. She may be defending her title in December. I thought I saw that. And people were saying, "Oh, like you're double." She was double booking, so she booked a MMA fight here, and then I'm boxing in December as well. So I don't know if that's still on as it stands now. But yeah, like you said, PFL is trying to prove a point, and I'm glad you brought that up because what goes against her, like you said, starting late, and another one who started late is Marina Rodriguez.
Yeah,
I think she started when she was 26 as well, actually. So it can be done, and obviously Claressa's already a master of one of the martial arts, one of the more favorable ones you need in MMA to stand up, and she's only getting out grappled. That's what's the positive of all this. I would spin it if I was Greg Jackson, her coach. I would just spin it that way. Hey, you're not doing bad. You're just not doing enough off your back to get up. So once she gets that settled, and because you don't have to be a submission artist. She doesn't have to be a jiu-jitsu black belt. But if she can just get up, because when she's up, she stunned her with a right hand up against the fence. I thought the fight was about to be over when she blitzed her, but then she grappled her and got her down to the ground. So if Claressa can get that figured out, she'll be good. And I think PFL, like you said, not trying to make an example out of her, but if they just feed her people she can beat, strikers who are not that experienced, she's going to run through them and everyone's going to say, oh, look at Claressa Shields running through all the PFL girls. And then what? Are you going to feed her to Kayla Harrison? Because we know not all the PFL girls are easy to beat. So I don't know. I think they got her L out the way early before, her and Kayla meet up. If they ever do, if Kayla even stays in the PFL. And I guess we can move on to her because she won, obviously, via armbar, another $1 million check for her. Hey, I said it before, she's the female Khabib. I really don't see anyone in PFL beating her. I don't see any women in Bellator beating her. And her coach said he's trying his hardest to make sure her versus Nunes doesn't happen because he coaches and trains both of them. So he doesn't want to be, conflict of interest. He's trying his hardest to not make that happen. That's interesting to me. I don't know if you heard that quote or what you thought about it, but that's interesting to me that your coach doesn't want you to go to the biggest and best promotion and fight the best because he also trains the best. I don't know. A little interesting for me, but I'm intrigued to see how this plays out.
I think everyone's intrigued to see how this unfolds because if I had to bet, I would say Kayla Harrison is going to end up leaving American Top Team, going to a new team, because at the end of the day, I mean no offense to PFL. They're a great organization. They pay their fighters very well, particularly their champions, but it's not the UFC. It's not even Bellator. It's, to me right now, it's the third best league. That's where I have it. Some people are saying it's the second best. I would disagree. I would say Bellator is just a few notches below the UFC. But if Kayla Harrison really wants to cement her legacy, you got to go to at least Bellator. You have to leave PFL. And I understand the money is great when you're able to win these tournaments or defend your title with these $1 million checks. I get it. But if you want to fight in terms of having the glory, you have to go to Bellator, or you have to really make the jump and go to the UFC. Because here's the thing. I think I heard either her coach or manager say they're afraid that the UFC won't pay her as much, which they won't, at least not right away. But what helps is that if you're Kayla Harrison, you already have netted hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, after taxes and paying your coaches and whatnot from PFL. So at least you have that money. What you can do is bet on yourself, fight in the UFC, and use your platform in the UFC to then make money outside, or keep winning in the UFC and then make the big bucks like Amanda Nunes is making. It may be a riskier plan than just getting a comfortable $1 million check because you're just running through everybody. But I think it's going to be time eventually for Kayla Harrison to make the jump to the UFC or Bellator. I would prefer the UFC, but either one, I think eventually she's going to have to make the jump if she wants to be looked at as one of the greatest females, not only on earth, but of all time for mixed martial arts.
I like where you were going with that. And we should table this topic about the rankings of the PFL, Bellator, UFC, as well as if Kayla Harrison leaves American Top Team, what she'll do. Let's table that for another time, because we do have to get to the UFC card.
Yeah, I rambled on there. I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault, but that's a good point you make, because leaving the team is something that a lot of up-and-coming fighters do. You know, they get the glory, they leave their team, and they either start their own team or, you know, they fall off and it's, you didn't have the right foundation, blah, blah, blah. So it'll be interesting to see if that does happen. I didn't even think of that. Wow. But we can get to that next week, maybe. How about UFC 267? Now, every fight on this card is a banger. Let's just focus on the main card for now. You start off with Ankalaev, who, hot take, give him a year and a half, best 205er in the world.
Ooh.
Hot take. Okay, cool. But you got Magomed Ankalaev against Ozdemir. That's going to be a banger. And that's going to determine who's next in line at 205. That could be a main event on like a fight night. Then you got Li Jingliang versus Khamzat Chimaev. Nothing needs to be said. The Leech, the Wolf, someone's getting eaten there. Great fight. Then you got Alexander Volkov returning against Marcin Tybura. Wow, Volkov's a -300 favorite. I'm going to bet on Tybura. Anywho, Islam Makhachev, Dan Hooker. That's going to be a good fight. Peter Jan Sandhagen, the people's champion for 135. And then you got Jan against Glover. This is a great card, Mike. I don't know. You can run through your predictions, run through them however you want. Let's talk about it. Like you said, we've been excited for this for a while now, and it's 3 days away.
Yeah, I'll go through really, really quickly. So, Ankalaev, Ozdemir, I have Ankalaev winning that one.
Same.
Volkov, Tybura, I'm going to go with Volkov because I see this primarily being a stand-up battle. I just think Volkov's going to outbox him, but I think that's going to be a very good fight as well. Khamzat Chimaev, versus Li Jingliang, this fight is really going to prove if Khamzat's the real deal or not. I think he is. I know you think he is as well. Let's see. I have Khamzat winning. And then Islam Dan Hooker, you know I am the conductor of the Islam train. I love Islam Makhachev. I'd be shocked if he loses. I don't think he's going to stop Dan Hooker. I think this is going to be a good fight. But Dan Hooker is only going to have a month between fights. That's a tough turnaround time to then have to fight Islam Makhachev. So I have Islam winning that. And then I may have missed the fight, but if I did, I'll get back to it. Petr Yan, Corey Sandhagen. I have Petr Yan coming out on top. Petr Yan, I think, is just going to be too much from a wrestling standpoint. I think if Petr Yan is going to finish Corey Sandhagen, I think it has to be via submission or just heavy ground and pound. But I think submission, because Corey Sandhagen's going to come in there for 5 rounds, and he's going to be ready, and it's going to be an entertaining fight. But I think Yan is going to run through him. And then for the main event, Jan Blachowicz, Glover Teixeira, 2 40-year-olds going at each other. That's awesome to see. I have Jan Blachowicz getting a knockout victory. I think Jan's going to get that. So those are my nutshell predictions.
Did you see in the press conference today that Jan was singing happy birthday to Glover?
I would hate that. If I was Glover, I would hate that.
Apparently, like, they're pretty friendly guys. Like, they're not like enemies, but
yeah,
bro, I'm trying to take your livelihood from you.
Yeah,
like,
don't wish me a happy birthday, buddy.
Yeah, bro.
Leave me alone.
It's not even, as a matter of fact, it's not even my birthday to you.
Yeah.
But I think we agree on Ankalaev. I think he will get a finish to start off the card. And then you have Khamzat against the Leech. Now, this for me, I thought that the UFC was giving Khamzat not favorable matchups, but guys they knew he could beat. They're trying to build him up. There's nothing wrong with that. After that KO over GM3, Dana realized, hey, he's going to hurt everyone on the roster because he's going to fight twice a week and he's going to beat everybody up. He's going to hurt all my guys. So give him a step up in competition. Remember, he tried to give him Leon Edwards and Neil Magny. It was Neil Magny and Damian Maia, and then they got switched to Leon, and then all that happened. But so we're gonna see if he can beat the Leech, which I think he will. I think he's live for a finish. I think this will show he should be ranked. He should be fighting contenders. He shouldn't be fighting up and coming prospects. Volkov and Tybura. I don't think this is crazy to me. Volkov should not be a 3-1 favorite over Tybura. Am I missing something here? Like he's literally on a 5-fight win streak, and he just finished Walt Harris and Greg Hardy. I know those aren't the biggest, best guys at heavyweight, but Tybura is a nasty, nasty, nasty heavyweight. I don't think any heavyweight should be a 3-1 over any other heavyweight. That's just because it takes one punch to really knock you out. So that's what I'm saying. But I actually have Tybura winning that. I think he's going to get some ground and pound in there. I think he's going to wrestle Volkov. And then you got Islam Dan Hooker. You said Dan Hooker has a month in between fights. Not even that. It's a month, but your whole team is in quarantine in New Zealand. You only flew over here with a few coaches, and now your coaches are kind of stuck here. You guys are trying to move your gym. I think they're saying City Kickboxing trying to move to America to get away from all the COVID restrictions in New Zealand. So it's a lot going on in Hooker's life. Respect for him for taking the fight, but I don't see this ending well for him. I don't think Islam stops him though. Dan Hooker's extremely durable. Mm-hmm. I don't see him getting stopped unless he gets a submission. But I don't see him knocking Dan Hooker out by any chance. No. His best bet is to try to wrestle his ass off and get this fight to the ground immediately because Dan Hooker has some of the nastiest timing knees coming in that you'll see in the division. Jan and Sandhagen, I was going back and forth on this one. I don't know. I actually don't know who I think is going to win, but I know if I had to pick someone, I'm picking Jan to get the finish, not just win. Because we've seen Corey last over 5 rounds against TJ. If that Corey shows up Jan is stopping him in the first or second round. I'm just letting it be known. And that was a good Corey that showed up. Don't get it twisted. But Corey has to do something outrageous to knock Jan out. I just don't see it happening. I think Jan's just too technically crisp. Corey's a little wilder of a striker, no pun intended. But yeah, I think Jan's live for a finish, but I'm not entirely confident in that, to be honest. But we know the real champ is waiting for his rematch because the real champ is at home right now, chilling, waiting. Yo, these two dudes who I beat already, one to get the title fight, one to get the belt. You know, rematch for my scraps, rematch for my interim belt. Y'all can have the fake belt. I got the real one around my waist. So Aljo's sitting back waiting for his rematch. I don't know if you saw Peter Yan, his open workout. He threw like a knee to his coat. He's such a great show. He's hilarious. And then last but not least, I've been saying this for months. Glover's going to submit Yan. I know you don't want to hear it. I know you think Jan's the second best 205 in the world. Glover's a better fighter all around than Yan. I think he has good boxing. I think Yan has more power, obviously, but if Glover gets him down to the ground, it's a wrap. And I think he will get him down to the ground. So maybe not first or second round, but later on in the fight, late round submission for Glover. That's how I see it. And new.
I actually agree with you to an extent. I think the only path for victory for me for Glover Teixeira is by submission. Because look what he did to INQ Talaba, got the submission victory over him, and Thiago Santos in his last fight. Not too many people thought Santos was going to get submitted, and he did by Glover. So Glover, as much as people want to talk about his striking ability, and trust me, Glover's a great striker. He's great with ground and pound. Traditionally, he's a jiu-jitsu guy. He's a phenomenal grappler. So if Glover is going to win, I think he has to do it by submission. That being said, though, I stopped doubting Jan Blachowicz after the Israel Adesanya fight. That was the very last time I'm going to doubt Jan Blachowicz. Because I thought Israel Adesanya was going to go in there and toy with him for 5 rounds. And that wasn't the case. Jan put on a wrestling clinic, and he looked phenomenal. I know Israel is not a traditional 205er, and he's a different fighter compared to Glover. But when it comes to grappling, I can't overlook Jan's grappling. So if the fight goes that route, I trust Jan enough to get back to his feet, defend takedowns or submission attempts, and hold his own on the feet as well, and either get a decision or a KO victory.
So, last question I'll ask you. Do you think no matter who wins, Yuri is next up, no matter what?
He should be, because Yuri is in Abu Dhabi as we speak. He's the alternate.
He's the alternate, right.
So, the reason why I say Yuri should be is because if you allowed Glover Teixeira to be the alternate at UFC 259, which is what the UFC did, and you gave him the next title shot, therefore you should do the same thing for Yuri. He's earned that right to be the alternate, allow him to fight for the title. It's what they did with Michael Chandler in the lightweight division last time they were in Abu Dhabi last October. So usually that's the trend. If you have someone be an alternate or a public alternate, not a behind-the-scenes alternate, but a public alternate, usually they're next in line for the title shot.
Okay, and do you think Aljo fights the winner of this fight, or do you think TJ steps in and fights the winner of this fight? Or do you think TJ waits until after Aljo fights?
TJ's going to have to wait, because Aljo, let's be honest, I don't think he should be champion, but he is the champion, right? He's earned that right. Whether you agree or not, and we can argue till the cows come home, whether or not March 6th, everything went down right. But at the end of the day, he is the champion. So whoever wins the interim title needs to fight Aljamain Sterling next.
Interesting. I can see this going away to where whoever wins, Aljo still may not. Maybe TJ's ready before Aljo, and TJ steps in and they have to defend an interim belt. I don't know why I see that, because Aljo has a neck injury. Like, that's not something you can, just mess around with. It's not something you can fight with. It's not like a knee injury or an arm injury.
But TJ's legs, though, are messed up. And that's going to also take a while for him to rehab.
He tore his MCL, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder how far along he is. That was a minute ago. Let me go on TJ's Instagram after this show. I see maybe he'll be giving me some juicing updates and stuff like that. But yeah, clean juicing. Ha ha ha. Get it? Because it's TJ. That was a no pun intended there.
Yeah, I don't want to give you any credit for that joke.
I was just talking about his juicing business because that's
well, yeah, he is
he posts on his Instagram. But yeah, I mean, anyway, man. And the best part about this is not pay-per-view. You just got it. It's there. Just sign in and you got it. ESPN Plus, man. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Uncle Dana. You got Abu Dhabi this week. Next week, we got Usman Covington 2, Rose Lee 2, and then the actual fight of the year, Michael Chandler and Justin Gaethje. Yo, I'm spoiled. Oh, hold on before we wrap up. Is Mike Tyson actually about to do this?
With Logan Paul?
This is insanity.
They might.
If Logan Paul gets in the ring with Floyd Mayweather and Mike Tyson, I'm starting up a YouTube channel right now, and Disney gonna have to call me because I gotta get that bag. I gotta get that bag. A Floyd bag and a Tyson? Come on, man. That's ridiculous.
And you know what? It kind of makes sense because Logan has now a relationship with Showtime. I'm sure Logan could go to whatever broadcasting partner and do a fight, but Mike Tyson used to fight for Showtime primarily. So this makes a lot of sense. I think it would be a smart fight in terms of business. In terms of health, I don't know if Logan Paul wants that because Mike Tyson's still Mike Tyson. I know a lot of people weren't happy with the Roy Jones fight, but Mike Tyson's still Mike Tyson.
Man, this. I thought Jake Paul, Tyron Woodley was a new level of insanity. I thought Ben Askren. I thought Logan and Floyd was a new. This is they keep upping the ante somehow, some way. It gets crazier and crazier every time they step in the ring. Now Jake Paul says he doesn't want to fight Tommy Fury. He wants to fight somebody who Tank fought or something like that. And I'm like, man, why can't y'all just fight who we want y'all to fight? Y'all always have to fight somebody who y'all have no business being in the ring with. But I told myself I'd stop hating on the Paul brothers. So all right, Mike. So thank you guys for tuning in again. Make sure you check us out on YouTube channel. Shop Talk coming up next. Follow us on Instagram as well as Twitter. Follow me here. Mike's the man. His Twitter's in the description. Make sure you give him a follow. And we'll catch you next week to wrap up 267. Peace.
Get up, let me begin.